2NURFM News for our sponsor, Cartier Jewellery. Always unique, always quality. Toronto Town Square.
It's 2 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Belinda De Lasheras with 2NURFM Hunter News. Police have begun their search for answers after a pedestrian collision at Edgeworth earlier today claimed the life of a 16-year-old girl. She's believed to have been hit by a white Toyota Prado while crossing the intersection of Main Road and Nilsson Street. The driver of the four-wheel drive wasn't injured in the incident and is undergoing mandatory blood and urine tests. Motorists are advised Main Road remains closed in both directions. The Abbott government's $7 GP co-payment for Hunter hospitals is again in the firing line following the release of modelling by New South Wales Health's Performance Reporting Branch. The briefing papers revealed the tax is expected to increase attendances at the region's emergency departments and could cost the state's hospitals an extra $80 million annually. Shadow Health Minister Walt Secord says independent analysis shows it will increase ED waiting times.
This modelling is by the Liberal government from the Health Department to the Premier. So it's modelling provided by the Liberal Party inside the government for the Premier. So it's independent modelling, and it shows that 500,000 people will go to emergency wards. Now that'll drive up waiting times at John Hunter, Belmont, Calvary Mater, and Maitland hospitals.
The Australian Manufacturing Workers Union is calling on the federal government to support the Hunter's shipbuilding industry. Newcastle shipbuilder Forjax has already foreshadowed the loss of 1,000 jobs unless it wins more Navy defence contracts, while the union says another 1,000 workers will lose their jobs in allied industries. AMWU Secretary Tim Ayres says the Hunter is being shortchanged while the government is sending defence contracts overseas.
This means, of course, many people will lose their jobs. But what it means is the Hunter Valley will lose the heart from its industrial capability, and we can't afford that as a community, and we can't afford that as an economy. It's time for the Abbott government to stand up for the interests of Hunter Valley families and the Hunter Valley economy and put the effort back in to solving this problem.
Despite Labor's plans for a major convention and exhibition centre in Newcastle's West End if it wins the March state election, tourism experts aren't getting their hopes up. The state opposition is promising a world-class centre, along with a sky bridge on the corner of Honeysuckle Drive and the former Lee Wharf Road, which could see thousands of jobs created. Tourism Hunter Chairman Will Creedon says he's urging Labor to stop and think about the proper implementation protocols required.
Newcastle and the Hunter need a convention centre. However, we need a sensible, responsible approach to it. I'm for one, and I know our industry is not about toast bubbles. We're about reality. And I'd like to understand the absolute detail of what Mr Robinson is preparing.
Meanwhile, Newcastle Greens by-election candidate Michael Osborne says any plans for a convention centre need to be kept out of developer hands and put up for community consultation.
Newcastle's been held back by plans that have been imposed on Newcastle from Sydney bureaucrats and Sydney-based developers. We really need to get everyone in the room in Newcastle people determining the future of Newcastle and where we want Newcastle to go.
Port Stephens Waterways is set for a major clean-up with a $170,000 funding boost on the way for new emergency response equipment across New South Wales. The funding comes in tandem with new legislation across the state, meaning Port Stephens is now under the protection of anti-pollution regulations. Roads and Maritime Services Director Angus Mitchell says the legislative changes mean polluters won't get away scot-free with damaging the environment.
Whereas under the old the old Protection of the Environment Act, we were limited to around $1,500 in fines. That's now increased it to $5,500. And really we're looking there to enforce some of those powers throughout the state in order to protect our waterways.
New patient menus will soon be introduced at hospitals across the Hunter New England Health District. The enhanced meal options are designed to satisfy statewide nutrition standards and have been developed with the help of Newcastle dietitians. The new menus also complement the state government's measures to improve food labels and packaging in a bid to assist the elderly and those suffering fine motor skill conditions to open food items. In finance, the All Ords is down 42 points at 52.42, and $1 Australian is buying 87.89 US cents. Updating sport, there'll be a touch of red and blue in Samoa's Four Nations side this year, with Newcastle Knights powerhouses David Faulongo and Joey Leilua named in the 23-man representative team. The squad is set to depart this Friday, bound for a week-long training camp in Samoa, before returning to Brisbane in time to take on England in their opening game of the series on October 25. Farley's Molly Gray says she's been given an extra incentive to return to full fitness with the addition of women's rugby sevens to the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games Bill in 2018. The Australian rep is currently recovering from surgery on a grade 3 medial cruciate ligament tear she sustained at the World Cup in France this August. It's understood the new-look Newcastle Knights board could be finalised by the end of the month, with a short list of leading hometown candidates being interviewed about the position. And after 18 years in Sydney, former Bulldogs captain Andrew Ryan is preparing to move to Newcastle in his new role as an NRL Welfare and Education Officer. 2NURFM News Time is 2:05.